Harvey, you're still watching Daybreak on Arise. Now it's time to look at what the papers are saying on their front pages, both the local and international. I am Ndi Amogan. We have Dr. Constance Ikoku here. Good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Ndi. I hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, by the grace of God.
Okay, that's good. Welcome to the program this morning to look at the headlines. We'll have with us Segun Shewumi. He is a political commentator and newspaper executive. Right, so let's start with this day newspaper sister publication. On this day headline, we have Tinubu hails Nduka Obaigwena at 65. He has demonstrated passion for human development. Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Kalu, Onyojocha, others salute this day Arise News chair. Right, 65. I mean, our chairman, the chairman of this day and Arise Group, is a pace setter, is a top achiever, high performer, trailblazer. You say it, he's a leader in the media industry. No doubt about that, Shego.
Well, congratulations. Happy birthday, the Duke. I think to put it in context, you have to think about when he started this day. That title is 29 years, thereabouts, almost 30. And he's 65, so do the maths, and then that gives you an idea of how precisely an enigma he has been. Congratulations to him. The title has been very consistent. It's taking lead in a lot of situations, and then on top of that, you now have the almighty television station that everybody considers as the first place to go to when they need important news, especially what he's been able to do with the international content and the news. Congratulations, Duke. Many more years in good health, break new barriers, create a CNN for us or an Al Jazeera, and that will be fine.
A CNN or Al Jazeera, is that what we are competing with, Shego?
Yes, sir.
Well, you know, Nduka, Prince Nduka Obaigwena is someone who recognizes talent, he respects talent, and he gives people chances. Whether you failed, you know, again and again, he will give you a chance in order to prove yourself. And that's been his trademark in the companies that he has run for many years now, Ndi.
Yeah. What can you say about our chairman, Nduka Obaigwena? 29 years at this day, like you said, a pace setter, a trailblazer. He's been in this business for as long. I mean, this day wasn't the first. He has had this week. He has contested for Senate, you know. And he is what you can call someone who raises stars as well. And then there's another side of him. I mean, you've had people who left the stable of this state to even go to the presidency. You had Adeni and then return to still keep working with this state. You have so many of them like that who left this day, newspaper, and then came back to still keep working with him. And then, of course, you now have Arise, which is an international television station that cuts across London, South Africa, you know, basically Europe, all over the world. As we're here, we're being beamed all over the world. So kudos to him. And it's still, I mean, happy birthday to you, the Duke of our kingdom. Many more years. And of course, more of you, exceeding great doors. What can one say? It's good to celebrate. The president also was celebrating him, I mean, President Tinubu. And so many the governor of Lagos State has been celebrating him as well. And so many other people. So we wish him a happy birthday and to continue to shine and to set the trail, to bless the trail rather.
Yes, a happy birthday to our chairman, Prince Nduka Obaigwena. I remember as a young reporter, a cub reporter in this day newspaper, I mean, he really works you. He tries to bring out the best in you. And Nduka, you know, will always sort of shuffle you or tailor you to what, you know, where your strengths are. You know, if you're ready to work, you're passionate about the craft and you want to improve yourself, he will give you the opportunity to do that, and he will give you the time that you need, the training that you need to be the best in the field. And he also has this penchant for picking always the best across the industry, and he brings them on board, and he gives them the editorial liberty to do what they need to do. And he's also hands-on, a hands-on publisher. He understands the craft. He is a journalist by excellence. He understands what he's doing. He is a businessman, and he does it well. So a big congratulations to you on this day. Well, it's not today, but you know, have a very good birthday. And I'm sure that a lot of people, the staff, and people that watch are looking to see more from this day and Arise Group.
And when you talk about hands-on, he's actually the editor-in-chief,
yes,
of this day newspaper.
Yes, yes. He will wake you up early in the morning if you have done wrong. Sometimes I wonder if he sleeps, you know, because he will wake you up early in the morning if he has an assignment to send you to, if there's something wrong on the front pages, or, you know, when we used to edit, when I was deputy editor, you know, late into the night, he's still awake, you know, working with you through the headlines. Sometimes he dictates some stories and he's editing on phone. I mean, he's definitely hands-on, and he knows what he's doing.
Talking about waking up, because, okay, we started in Apapa. We were in Apapa, was the first, basically the first, one of the first newscasters in Apapa. I remember that late in the morning, at about 2 a.m., Ndoko Baibana, the chairman, walked into the studio. You're talking about Apapa, and he was coming from where he lived in Ikoyi, you know, to Apapa at that time. I mean, talking about when you said whether he sleeps, you know.
Yeah.
I wonder whether he does really.
Yeah. An interesting man and a wonderful man at the same time. So happy birthday again. So let's go to a Punch newspaper this morning. We'll be looking at the story. Dangote lists refinery shares in March, supplies petrol in August. It says also that fertilizer supply in African countries in 2 weeks, that's what he's looking at, and 70% of the group's revenue is expected in Forex. We know that there has been a slight delay in the supply of petrol. It was supposed to be in July. Now we're being told it will manifest in August. This comes after crude oil supply issues were resolved with multinational oil companies. And federal government, he also tells us, owns only 7.2% of the Dangote refinery. And in contrast to what people are saying, that he owns over 30%. So he's sort of stating that to make sure that we have the fact. You know, just like his other ventures, Dangote is setting up proper structures for this refinery. Listing a company has advantages, you know. There are advantages such as good corporate governance, investor confidence, more visibility, access to capital. These are some of the things that you get when you list a company. And so like his other companies, he's toeing that path to make sure that probably this business outlives him, Shago.
Well, I think that the Ghanaian model is what government should do with their own enterprises. One of the fastest ways to ensure that, one, you have the right type of corporate governance in place, and that you can mitigate corruption and the issues of key man risk, one person just making a mistake and everything falling apart, is to take it to the stock exchange, because therefore better level of regulation, better capital, like you said. But I would also want to add that sometimes you have to ask, monopolies and their desire for profit, what type of impact does it have in an economy like ours? And in that regard, I would just say to the regulators, Dangote Refinery is a business. It must be treated like a business. It must be properly supervised for corporate governance issues, and even on the issues of, you know, profit, taxes, and all of that for the country. We have pampered him enough in other regards, and I think that this time around, this particular industry is a global industry, and Dangote and his people must match up to the global best practices. Other than that is to wish them well. It's big enough. It's supposed to solve our problem. We're in a hurry because of the impact of the kinds of products it produces on the local market. We'll just say yes. Well done, Big Shark. Continue to do more. There are other things you have to do after you have finally stabilized this one, but we'll tell you another day about that.
Well, Well, solving all our problems, indeed. Do you think this will solve all our problems? It's just one extra refinery. The other two are not working, the ones that belong to the federal government. We need more on
About
board.
4. It can't solve. It can't. There's no way it's going to solve all our problems. It's not possible. But the interesting thing, anyway, from what Dangote has said, he said that why he's now coming out telling us that he's going to roll out the fuel petrol in August is that all the issues that have to do, we've discussed about these issues with IOCs, issues with the refiners and all that he was, the crude he was getting was expensive, and then he had to still keep on importing, and then you're wondering then why was the need for this. He said now he has saw those issues have been resolved with NNPCL and the federal government, so he can now roll out. But it's interesting that while he was, showing journalists on a tour of his refinery, that he said NNPCL has 7.2% stake in the refinery as against the 20%. I was discussing it with Vanguard earlier on. The way it was stated was because NNPC came out to also make a statement regarding that, saying that they thought about it and decided to cap their investment at 7.2. And I was asking myself if that was they said they communicated this to Dangote. So if that was the case, one is wondering why did Dangote then not add it in his statement to the press that actually is not that the time for the obligation to Dangote has expired, but that NNPCL had communicated to him that we're capping it at 7.2. So I'm wondering why that wasn't included. But it's good to know that the issues have been resolved, and by August, this is July, we expect that Petrol will roll out.
Well, there's always a bit of politics. It's not easy to set up these businesses. He has spent billions of dollars to set it up. There were delays again and again, and eventually it has come to be. But Shego, let's stay a little bit on the matter of the IOCs, the international oil companies. On paper, we are being told that the issues have been resolved. However, Dangote did cautiously also say that he hopes that these companies respect whatever agreement has been reached. Okay,
thank you. That's why I said we've pampered him enough. It's time for him to see this business like a business. When he plays in the cement market, he plays to advantage. When he plays in the sugar market, he plays to advantage. Now he's in oil and gas, petrol, and all of the issues involved. He should understand that it's not the responsibility of the federal government to kind of like carry him through the issues of competition with IOCs. IOCs are his new competitors. He has to figure out a way to make sure that he can survive in there and not just keep panicking the market by insisting and screaming that just by running on headlines, the entire country is going to be having a seizure because Aliko is doing what? It's a business. It should be treated as one. Corporate governance issues, regulatory issues, supervisory issues because of the profit aspect of monopoly, especially when it has to do with important, almost like live sustaining products like the one we have here in Nigeria, also means that the government must be quite strict. What is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Well,
Shego is definitely insinuating that Dangote has special treatment. I mean, a lot of people have complained about that he's, every government, but Is
he really insinuating that or just saying that?
Thank you.
Now, you are in business and you have competitors, and the market, you have to find a way around it. But where I don't particularly agree with Shego is that when he says the pampered in federal government,
I can give you some examples.
Maybe you're right, but
cost of funds.
Maybe we're looking at the fact that it's a Nigerian thing. But I think Shego is right. We're looking at the fact it's a Nigerian thing, so that if there's talk about IOC, this and that, and the baby is now here, why can't the government, come in and iron things out? I mean, I think that's what he was.
Well, you have to give it to the man. He makes bold moves.
Yeah, of course.
That was a very bold one.
Yeah. Let's go to the next newspaper this morning. Shall we look at Vanguard? So in the Vanguard, Naira depreciation escalates. Manufactured goods imports 139% to 5.74 trillion Naira. This is for the first quarter of the year. The surge is from 2.40 trillion naira in the year 2023 in the first quarter. Also, stakeholders said there is a competitive disadvantage for locally produced goods. There are binding constraints. The data is from the National Bureau of Statistics. There's also high cost of production locally. This is a huge obstacle, manufacturers say. So the lamentations of manufacturers in Nigeria are plenty. The bottlenecks to industrialization, we haven't been able to completely deal with it or tackle it such that we can have a highly industrialized country. We don't even have a medium industrialized country. So again and again, this is what you hear, the problems, the issues, and have we made significant progress or have we retrogressed? What do you make of this?
At the heart of every economic theory is a suggestion or a hunch. It's only after it's been applied and we see the result that we can say, okay, the economic theory was right or wrong. And let me spend some time on this. We have come to the point, in my opinion, where we need to write into our law that nobody will be allowed to devalue our currency. And I'll tell you why. Beyond even manufacturing, what devaluation does is that it destroys the savings in the country. And any nation that cannot rack up enough savings of its own can never find enough capital with which to develop any sector within the economy, first part. The second part I will add is that we have seen nations who said, oh, the market will take care of all this arbitrage and make it easy. At some point in time, some countries, America, UK and co, followed that route, and some countries did not, like Germany and co. And what we found out after 5 years, between 1973 and 1978, was that those countries who knew that the market can be allowed to just be managing the gap, they had more surplus. And those countries who said the market had to manage the gap kept needing more money to bridge the distance in between. So what I'm saying frontally is that for us to, we can't be complaining about the same thing since about 1979 or thereabout, about wanting to become a manufacturing country, about having a big market and not being able to rack up advantage. We need to know that at the heart of this is that we are following the very wrong economic principles around our devaluation, around our fiscal policies, around our monetary policies that does not aid where we need to be. And we can piggyback on how did Lee Kuan Yew do it in Singapore. He was very clear that we will write into our law that devaluation is not going to be allowed here, so that the country can learn to spend only what it has earned and incrementally open up and build up his own reserve and do so much more. So I think that we must pity ourselves, and we don't need to blame any one person, because this is like a journey that has been coming for a long time. I don't have the time for people who say they want to hang everything on one person just to make the person look bad. That's not the point. The point is that we need to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
We need to call in some of our top level economics who are not just economics that are playing today, the ones that are been economists that are still around, to now come and rethink the whole thing for us and tell us, okay, we've done it this way up till now, this is how we need to do. But definitely, devaluation is not part of the thing that we can afford to keep doing. It's too hurting.
Right. And to buttress your point, there's an instance that was given in that newspaper. If you were importing a $1 million worth of product at the rate of 450 naira per dollar, now you have to import the same worth of product at 1,500 naira per dollar. Can you imagine how astronomical that rise is there? And yes, some people say we should definitely stop importation or reduce it drastically, but there are some inputs that are needed to be imported, for drugs and some other things that are produced. It's not everything that you can produce locally, because there are things that you have comparative advantage and there are things that other people do have, then you have to get them into your country. However, just look at the astronomical difference that makes, Ndi. It just kills the whole thing.
I can agree more with Shego. Akinwumi of the AFDB said that oil will not get us there. It has to be agriculture, and importation will not do it. We have to learn to grow what we eat, like the past administration said. The point is, I don't know how to put it, but a mistake has been made. You have to find a way to correct the mistake. Floating the naira, devaluing the naira from onset was a no-no. We're not producing anything. We consume, I mean, at a point in time, people were importing toothpicks for crying out too loud. How do you import toothpicks? I mean, look at it. Weak spending triggers decline in e-payment transactions. Value of the e-payment fails 5.7% to 92.8 trillion naira. Firms reduce output expansion due to low consumer spending. And if people are not spending, the economy cannot grow. And they can't spend because the expendable income in their hands is nowhere. I mean, yeah, I was aghast. I went to the market. I wanted to cook over the weekend. I cook.
You cook?
And I'm a real good cook.
Okay.
You need to test my
You have
soup
to
or my
invite
stew.
us. Okay.
Oh boy,
Okay.
I'm a very good cook. You know what the woman, when I priced Shegun, what the figure the woman called, then she said, I think, Oga, it's like it's been long since you came to the market. Because I couldn't understand it. The prices of foodstuff, it's not this thing we're discussing on TV. It is not just cutthroat. It is killing, Constance. It is killing. And it's because of the exchange and, of course, security implications of people not being able to go to farm and then produce. If you make a mistake, like I said, why don't you walk it back? Find a way. That was how Kenyan president said, no, we're not going to go on with this IMF finance taxes.
No, they forced, the citizen forced him. He went to Washington, D.C., and, he was chubby, and then he came back and they said, you know what, we will tell you what to do.
No, but at least
you don't tell us what to do.
But at least he agreed.
Right.
He agreed.
Well, he had no choice.
Our leaders agreeing here.
Well, do we want to go into Kenya now? I mean, no, I think Kenya has a history of real resistance. They have built it over the years, the resistance from the people, and I think that is what you see playing out in Kenya. The people are telling the government what they want and not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheg, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say that. You see, when you love Kenya and their resistance, you need to be careful because you need to look at the dynamics of your country. If you have an estimated 220 million people in Nigeria, as that be so, first of all, the mass of the people don't understand the economic interplays and the economic theory and what it takes to even make that which they say they want. One. Secondly, you are a country that if you dare get destabilized, the whole of West Africa is in trouble. So we need to figure out a way to see that evolution is also a micro-revolution. Let me repeat that. Small baby steps in the right direction is better than avant-garde, pull everybody to the street and destroy everything because you don't even have the resources to build. That's that. Then the presidency of Ahmed Tinubu is most guilty of the fact that for more than a year, it has not seen the need to finish whatever negotiation is doing so that it can inject sustainable money into the hands of workers and then private sector can, dwell on that. Then you can have people spending more money. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand why the states are not even taking agriculture very seriously. It's not rocket science to grow yam.
Well, some states like Niger State. Reports say that Niger is really doing well in terms of agriculture, but it could be more. There are 36 states and the whole north, arable land, vast, that, you drive through states in the north, you're driving and seeing land that is not used. When you compare that to developed countries, for instance, you drive and you don't really see land that is available.
Singapore is thriving on agriculture. I mean, they had to have, we have oil in the ground, but those people were dealing with oil. I mean, how does that happen? That we cannot, we have the resources, but to use it is a problem. I don't know whether it was the fact of the oil boom that came and then we forgot about agriculture.
Right.
And it just went bonkers.
Well, we'll continue that conversation another day. Let's go to the Guardian newspaper. 21 states race to hold elections as 489 LGAs face zero FAC allocations. It says the salaries of primary school teachers, council workers uncertain. INEC should conduct polls, say Shitu and Oyeweso. Thursday, last Thursday, when the Supreme Court delivered the judgment granting autonomy to local councils. As at that time, this report is telling us that 489 out of 774 LGAs, that is 63.17%, were being governed by caretaker committees or civil servants, a whopping 63%. States that have not conducted elections for a while are Anambra, Zamfara, Enugu, Abia, Jigawa, Sokoto, Ondo, Osun, Plateau, Katsina, Kano, Delta, Kogi, Benue, Kwara, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Bauchi, Adamawa, and Imo. This cuts across. It has nothing to do with religion or ethnicity. The lack of adherence to the laws and doing the right thing, as we can see from this report, is across the states. And now, because they want the funds, they are now racing to conduct those elections that they have refused to conduct in the past.
We may have to take a breather here, and then we return and continue with that. Don't go away. All right, it's 7:03 a.m. This is Daybreak, and we're still discussing the papers, local and international. Before we took a breather, we're talking about Constance raised the issue of Supreme Court judgment. 21 states race to hold elections as 489 local government areas face zero allocation from the federal government. Constance.
Yes, we were on that Guardian story that tells us that 63.17% of states in Nigeria haven't conducted elections at the local councils. They all have caretaker committees or civil servants running them. Now they want their money, so they're racing to conduct elections, and it's just a travesty across board, Ashego.
This Supreme Court judgment is evidence that consequence is what informs good behavior here. In the first instance, there's nothing that says local government should not be administered properly by the old order. But we have found ourselves in a situation that a whooping 63% have not even done what they were supposed to do on their own. The second is that judgment also brings to fore the conversation about what type of federalism are we running. Because ideally, things that are subnational after the state is supposed to be the purview of those states to design and run, including local government and all that. But of course, we have created a habit of not doing the right thing as subnational, and now we have to go to Supreme Court to say, don't give them the money, pay to them directly, and everybody is now running to do what they ought to have done ab initio. Be that as it may, we'll have to take it with a pinch of salt, in cautious optimism, because the kinds of characters who were able to abuse the old process have not told us that they are going to make a new lease of life and change. It should be important to see what kind of consequential actions that the federal government needs to put in place to make it very, very clear that the old order of people just running local governments anyhow they like is gone and gone forever. And let us hope that everybody will smell the coffee, rack up the new behavior, bring leadership to that level, scale up the kinds of quality of men and women who will now be leading local government, insist that citizen participation at that level increases, because they now will obviously have more money and maybe less excuse, and then begin to give them targeted responsibility of what they can do. For instance, if we cannot feed ourselves, there's no reason why local government cannot open up acreages of land in their local government and go farm so that we can at least they can feed their people, and invariably we can feed ourselves to the country, to the world as well.
Yeah, over the weekend we were discussing about this, and there was an idea that came up. Someone asked, every state in Nigeria is made up of local government. Every area of that state is made up of a local government. Then why do we need state governors? Why do you need state governors? Why not abolish state governorship, where they have, the state capital and the government house far away somewhere in the capital is holed up in the government house far away from the people? Why not abolish that? Then give the power and money to the local council. So if you want to run a state, become the local government chairman, live among the people and do the job, do the work, because then if you empower that, it's you're saving money, you're not dividing the money between the states, and the local councils, then you make it a serious business to be a local government chair. Ndi, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a no-no. I mean, you have delegation of duties. The state is so big, so huge, so wide that you will...
But they're all local governments.
That you, but I mean, like I said, delegation of duty, it trickles down. You have to have the federal, you have to have the state, you have to have the local.
Not necessarily. Democracy depends on how
Mind you, that's
you're
an idea
able to design.
that you're defending.
No, I'm not defending it.
I mean,
I'm
okay,
saying,
that's an idea that you're raising.
I'm not defending it.
Okay, I mean, that's an idea you're raising.
Yeah.
And I'm countering it.
Yeah.
I'm saying because it will be too unwieldy for you to just have a local government. Local government is supposed to, that's why it's broken down. So it can get to the grassroots. It's just like Chego said, what we're witnessing really is consequence of not doing the right thing. Because if the right thing had been done, there wouldn't have been need for the courts to come in. And I don't know, we've talked about laws. I think the issue generally always is implementation. Because if people know that if you do this, you will experience this, and it happens, I think we'll begin to do the right things. I mean, look at the instance of this local government now. And that's where the issue of state police, which we're not discussing, comes in. If the governors are crying foul, imagine when they have state police. Now, teachers may not be paid. Workers may not be paid because you have the question of 489 local governments may not receive their allocations. I mean, that's dangerous. And then this issue of caretaker, the court hasn't really touched it. For example, Rivers State, the local governments, their term expired. So what do you do when you can't leave a lacuna? You can't leave a vacuum. So what do you do? So I think that issue should be touched. But some of the analysts are saying that, for example, Shitu, a lawyer, and Oyewose are saying, INEC should conduct these council elections. And you can understand why. Right. Because most of the time, the chairmen are stooges of the governors. So some are saying that if by the time they get the money, the governor will say, you know how far. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, we'll knock you. So maybe, I don't know, this is good, but it has to be, some areas have to be chiseled, you know, to get, but the most important thing is that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step.
Well, you know, talking about chiseled, every democracy in the world, you know, you have to tweak it to suit your circumstances. It's not a cut and paste, or it shouldn't be a cut and paste. Yep. I shall go briefly on this. Because what it means is that you recognize that you have different historical backgrounds, you have different realities, and you have the originality to decide and to create whatever is going to work for your country in your peculiar circumstances. It's like you said, it's a journey of 1,000 miles, but you have to keep discussing in order to get it better. Yeah, sure.
From a purely academic point of view, I can also say to you, Constance, that the world and academicians who worry about, you know, the development of city-states are beginning to tell us that even the national concept is failing, and that people and nations are going to eventually fall back into their city-state concepts. Now, what that really will mean will fit into the idea that you're talking about. But the question you have to ask, Constance, is that if you don't need state governors because you have local government, then what do you need the federal government for?
I was going to go there.
Can I answer you? So,
no, can I just land my thought?
Hold on. No. That the person who suggested it was saying, okay, so you have a federal government whose sole responsibility is limited to maybe foreign affairs, maybe defense, and a couple of other things. Well, that was
the guy is that person is really.
We're just talking.
I know. The fellow is romanticizing.
Yeah.
He's romanticizing the premiership era.
Oh, okay.
And that's what he reads, but just using words to fancy it up. The truth of the matter is that this present system can work. Human irresponsibility and lack of consequence will not be the reason to come and say processes that have been well thought out, working in other countries, won't work when it gets here. We must deliberately become a nation of consequence. And the consequence has to be laid on the table of those who have responsibility.
Right.
Once we do that, you find out that it will work.
Okay. Well, let's go to the international top stories to see what we have for you. Daily Mail, Trump, evil won't win. ex-president tipped for landslide election victory after miracle survival of assassination attempt that's left America in turmoil. America was left in uproar this weekend as dramatic photos of a blood-stained Mr. Trump pumping his fist in the air circulated around the world. The would-be assassin was identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, a 20-year-old high school graduate. Police say he acted alone. Biden has had 2 press conferences, denounce this, and he says this is not what America is about. FBI is leading the investigation. Really shocking events in America. The story is unfolding. We're going to be hearing more during the week. Definitely, the sense is that American politics has become highly polarized, and that the politicians themselves are using divisive rhetorics, and that this was coming. It's no surprise at all, Shegu.
Well, thank God that it didn't happen in Africa or in Nigeria, and then the headlines would have been screaming a different thing and blaming the wrong people. But thank God it's happened in the country. I'm not happy that my man Trump has that issue to deal with. I'm happy that he's fine. I hope he gets really well quickly. But the question you're going to ask is that, what exactly motivates another citizen to come into a crowded environment, take an aim at a presidential candidate? What if he misses and kills somebody else? What is to be gained? And thank God Trump is ever so defiant, clutching his fist in the air, showing the people that I'm going to be standing, and I can guarantee, there's something called exponential analysis of polls and behaviors. He would have at least minimally gotten an extra 10 points just by that action, because sympathy, empathy, pity, and all that works now in his favor.
Yeah, the papers are saying that.
Exactly. So they're not saying rubbish. There's science to back that. Exponential 4.0, which is where the world is when it comes to predictions and this kinds of thing, will tell you that this kind of thing that happened, Trump pumping his fist in the air, being so defiant, everybody being forced now to rally around the country, is a deal winner for him. And let's just say, without calling it too early, maybe it may be too late now for our friends, the Democrats, to claw back, because they are struggling already, and now someone has given them a smoking gun. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
So when you look at that video again and again, he was defiant, pumping his fist up. And they're having the Republican National Convention on Thursday. He has said that he will attend. There were fears he was not going to attend. And when I was watching the whole thing, I remembered when I was a foreign correspondent in Washington, D.C. I covered the Democratic and Republican Convention. And usually in these conventions are where they coronate the candidate. And, it's usually a very colorful event, American flags everywhere, music, such as, this is the USA. You know how Americans are. And there's a lot of joy, and there's a lot of political talk, jabs at opponents. It's a very interesting event. And that time, I think 2008, Obama was the candidate of the Democratic Party. And at that convention, a lot of people were crying. He was the first black candidate of a main party. He was fresh, young, 47, and he had just, cut off ties with his pastor, Pastor Jeremiah Wright, who had said something divisive, and so he was recovering from that. I'm narrating all of this to say that the convention is very important for both parties, and that's probably why Trump is saying, no matter what, no matter the threats, I am going for this convention. I'm not running under the covers.
It's not, how do you say it? It's not, that's what he will say. There's no press, there's no mate, there's no one who is running who won't go for his convention. I mean, you can't even let that happen, because you're saying that the people on the other side who are trying to injure democracy are winning. It's about fear. And then this raises the issue of gun control, which has been talked about over time in America. I mean, from Turkey to Israel to Nigeria to Australia, all the presidents, prime ministers, Starmer, they've been criticizing this, that there's no place for violence in a democratic setting. That what you're witnessing is not just about America, it's not just about Trump, it's about democracy being shot at, being wounded. And even Biden, I think he called him and said...
He did call him, they had a call, yes.
And They're praying for, because nobody will want that to happen, you know. So we watch and see what gives. It raises the question of gun control. Then you were talking about American politics being divisive, because there are issues that even Trump himself raises that speak to divisiveness, you know. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, when you listen to Trump after that, he did say that America needs to be united.
He's not talking, and that looks like something from, I mean, when you hear Trump say America needs to be united, it's laughable.
No,
it's laughable because his rhetoric
but
does not speak to unity of Americans.
No, wait. Politics and campaigns are done in prose. And he's the biggest showman on the stage right now is Trump. And you can be sure they're going to take maximum, juice out of this lemonade or lemon that has been thrown at them. How it happened, who is responsible, is there a conspiracy, did other people do it, was it state managed? These are all the kinds of conversations.
The issues of state management.
Yeah, these are all the kinds of conversations that be going on. But whoever done this has done something incredible, because by what, and we should be careful though, that shot that just stripped his ears could have killed him.
Yes.
And would have had a bigger catastrophe on our hands. So let's just say, thank you,
whoever, God
Almighty, that you're fine, you're okay, you still had enough time to pump your fist. Now let the electorate go decide who the next president of America is.
Before we
but my vote is on Trump.
And that's why I know that your vote, and that's why I'm saying let's watch and see how it plays out. Because when Constance was talking about unity, I mean the whole world knows that Trump is not somebody to talk about unity.
And before we go on this topic, Biden himself, when he gave that press conference, he said, this is not who we are. Violence has no place in our society. But, people have been shooting up schools in America. And the Democrats have always been saying we need
gun control.
Gun control. So,
and the Republicans have always been against it.
Yeah, what do you think about what President Biden said, briefly?
It's too late in the day. Sleeping Joe is just saying whatever.
Why are you calling Sleeping Joe?
Stop calling him
Sleeping
Joe.
Call him Joe. You're just touting Trump's
That's a very popular conversation and appellate he carries within their own media.
That's what Trump calls him.
Well, maybe I'm a Trumpist.
It's not a popular appellate. It's just what Trump calls him.
I know you like Joe.
But you know, it's not about liking Joe. Trump is full of... the thing he releases from his mouth, Shego, for God's sake.
Trump is the kind of guy that you want to come and run a campaign for you, because he's going to...
Not for me.
For me. He's going to bring in a lot of energy.
For me.
But let's
energy.
Let's get back to the serious issue.
Yes, please,
The fact of the matter is that America cannot pretend that it's not a violent society. It is.
Oh, yeah.
Statistics reveals that every day people just get up and kill people. They need to figure out what to do with their gun culture. They need to figure out how to create a new habit for themselves, where people are not just waking up in the morning and just going wacko on people. You could have killed him, and for whatever it's worth, you would have somebody's father, that's somebody's husband, that's somebody's granddad, and you don't need all that just because of politics. You need to be able to differentiate between the rhetorics and what the issues are.
Right.
The issues that they are speaking to are clear. One of them was more control for American borders, one more responsibility for NATO, one less America going all over the place to start wars. These are issues.
But they're never speaking about gun control.
Okay.
Which is the main, one of the major...
Because the guys that are in charge of the lobbies for we must have guns,
mostly Republicans,
are very, very big, and they are Republicans.
I remember, again, when I was in the US, a friend took me to a gun shooting range.
Oh, yeah.
You can just go anywhere,
I do that a lot.
Pay, and learn how to shoot a gun. So it's a real issue in America. Let's go to Daily Graphic from Ghana. Let's fight fake news, IGP tells traditional media. The IGP in this report has told traditional media to stop misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. He says in view of upcoming elections, the media must be responsible. The IGP has a point. Misinformation, disinformation is dangerous. It leads to polarization in society, and it actually tears a country apart, Shego.
Disinformation originally was a special tool for, special organization to drive agenda, until microblogging sites and free access and everybody can just hold on the phone and become journalists all of a sudden. And now we're beginning to see the impact or the potential damage it can do to society. That headline in Ghana might as well have been the headline in Nigeria. But I only disagree with him by saying that what exactly do you expect the mainstream media to do to curb this? in my opinion, I think that what the country, Ghana, Nigeria, everybody needs to do is that you need to ensure that those who are managing the back end of your communication, your ICT infrastructure, get a little bit stricter, and your intelligence gets a little bit stricter. Once small, they flag you, they drag you in, and quickly ensure that they tell you this kind of behavior is not acceptable here. People can't just make outlandish comments. People cannot overheat society. People cannot be recreating past events and making it look like the present. People cannot be wishing their country to implode. These are serious work, and it requires us to rework our Secret Service infrastructure and make sure that we tally reorientation with Secret Service, with ICT infrastructure to say, no, you have to scapegoat people. You have to apply the law. People don't just on their own behave. Right. You have to ensure that you are very there, because at the end of the day, when it blows in our faces, we're not going to even have anything we can do about it to stop it, because it'll be too late. It will metasize and it'll be going like haywire, and everything we try to do to curb it will then be too late.
I mean, there is a share of responsibility for everyone, but in this day of the internet age, and the fact that a lot of people are so-called citizen journalists, it's almost impossible to monitor this. It's so difficult on day.
Yeah, here on Arise News, we have a policy to make sure you check what you want to put out there. So, and this always comes via the net, like you said. Facebook, Twitter. You don't get information there and fly with it or run with it. So we must check, we do check news and make sure what you're putting, because anyway, TV, you can be sued, unlike the papers, you know, who can say our sources. But TV is picture, is video, is talk. So you have to back up what you're saying with a video, with facts, you know, and that's very important. We're going to be leaving it here today on the paper review, just to add that, well, England did not come to the party yesterday. Very poor performance, and Spain, 4-time champion of the Euros. And then the Copa America, Messi took home that cup too. You know, they beat Colombia extra time, 1-0. James stood out, having the best, setting the record of the best assist, surpassing what Messi did in the later years. And that's it on Daybreak here this morning. Thank you so much, Constance, and of course, Shego, for being here early this morning. We'll call it today. Next on our bill is the morning show, like you know, every moment here on Arise. It does indeed matter. I am Ndi Amogo, thanking you for watching.